Takulandirani ku AMTV Malawi kuchimake kwa nkhani zenizeni. Ngati nkhani imeneyo kuno kulibe, dziwani kuti nkhani imeneyo ndi yabodza.
That from GT Central, Controlling Officer. Kindly switch on your mic, Controlling Officer.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much, Honorable Member from GT Central. Your first question was, what is the Bureau's position now? Do we think there is sufficient information to find evidence of corruption? So far, through these proceedings, we are able to get some information that we can use to find evidence of corruption. I'm not going to specifically state what kind of evidence to avoid prejudicing the people who may be the subject of the investigations. But as I said, Honorable Member, the investigations of the Bureau do not just start from abstract. That is why we had difficulties in these investigations because of those limitations. The limitations of lack of information from the whistleblower. Now, information is coming out through these proceedings. And from our recommendations, we have also recommended that there should be a conclusive investigation or a conclusive report from an authoritative entity that would say, from an investment point of view, from a prudential point of view, from a fiduciary point of view, the fund was wrong to proceed to conclude with this transaction. If we have that conclusive evidence, that conclusive report, that would be our starting point. Because from then is when we will start analyzing the motives of the people who were concerned in the transaction. The second question was, Honorable Member, whether we are not worried that Malawi society and the anonymous complainant do not trust us. Actually, at this point in time, probably this is the time that the Bureau has received a lot of complaints. Actually, we are grappling, we are receiving a lot of complaints on corruption issues right now. So we are not worried because one or two entities chose not to trust the Bureau. Thank you very much.
Controlling Officer, another question. Can you come with supplementary GT Central?
I don't think my first question has been answered, Chair. In fact, I've been more confused. The question is, by 16th December, they did not have enough information. Now they have some information. Are they going to proceed with investigation or not? I believe investigation is looking for the clues to get the evidence. The answer is like, we don't have the evidence. I would want to bring to the controlling officer attention that now they know that MJ, the organization which was the basis of the increased price, is not licensed to practice. Again, one of the complaints was conflict of interest from the Amaryllis society, that CAM is conflicted. We know that CAM did their work for free. There was a motive for CAM to do that work for free. I don't know what type of evidence they are looking for after hearing these 2 points have just indicated. My question, I think, is something like, we have seen there is some gaps that need to be investigated, or up to date, we are not seeing any gaps that need to be investigated. Thank you, Chair.
Controlling Officer, you may take that one. Maybe before, you can take with Chikwawa West. Chikwawa West.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you very much, Acting Acb Director, for the presentation, a comprehensive one. Through your presentation and through your investigations, it shows that you dwelled much on the submission from Malawi Law Society to do your investigation. I just want to find out, why didn't you maybe extend it to doing the investigation according to your mandate that you have, that you can do investigations even not only because you have been there's a complaint, but maybe also going into other details. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Controlling Officer, there are two questions, one from Chitipa Central, the other one from Chikwawa West. Controlling Officer, you have repeatedly said that valuations said the business was viable, according to valuations. But when you read the valuations, even at face value, you find that one or two were under 40 billion. Just another one from Nico Asset Managers was somewhere around 47 billion. Now, from nowhere, you find that that hotel has been purchased at 128 billion. Was that not a red flag for you that something is not right? Because all those valuations were under 50 billion, but from nowhere, it had to hit 128 billion. Like what Chitipa Central has indicated, and the person who actually confirmed that they are not licensed, that team of two was seated where you are sitting with your controlling officer. Controlling officer, can you come out very clear in terms of the red flag, which was obvious? You are an intellectual. You should know these numbers at ease. Kindly come out clearly so that we can get comfort in your office. Controlling officer, over to you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Let me start by the question from Honorable Member for Chitipa Central. I did indicate initially from our letters to the Attorney General and even to the fund, we clearly came out that we were going to reopen the investigations should new evidence arise pointing to criminality. And I didn't want to specifically say that we are going to, so far, we have noted gaps in this, and we are going to investigate this entity, that entity, because probably I thought that might have been, that might not have been right to do so. So, unless I am guided, but the investigations have shown the issues that we need for now to investigate based on the people that have already appeared before this committee. So we are going to do investigations because there are issues that we did not know. That was the limitation that I had also talked about. We are getting to know them now. But whether I stand to be guided, whether I must say that we are going to investigate this and that, this one and that, maybe I stand to be guided by the chair.
It's fine. That you can paint. Can you go on and retake the other one?
Thank you, Honorable Member for Chikwawa West, for your question. The response to that question will be taken by my colleague here, Mr. Isaac Nkoma, who was the lead investigator in the matter. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chair. If I got the question correctly from Chikwawa West, the question was like, it appears the investigations of the Anti-Corruption Bureau concentrated only on the allegations that were raised in the press statement of the Malawi Law Society. Yes, we concentrated on the allegations that were raised in the press statement of the Malawi Law Society because of the seriousness of the allegations. We thought that if you could have a wider scope apart from those 4 allegations, then the investigations could be too wide and too long, and taking into account the public interest which was there. We thought that we should address the allegations at that particular time. But internally, we have also the Corruption Prevention Department, which is also looking at these systems that need to be reviewed to see the systems that are used at the Public Service Pension Trust Fund, to see whether they are conducive to corruption or illicit enrichment. So that will be done by another department, that is the Corruption Prevention Department, which actually has got a unit which do systems reviews. Thank you so much.
Honorable Chair, you asked a question on the 128 billion.
Controlling officer, in fact, when you're looking at, let me take that one. When you're looking at all the valuation reports, this one is almost 2.5 times. Does that alarm you, controlling officer? Was that not enough to institute an investigation on the one which was about 2-3 times more than the usual or the list of the evaluation? And in fact, this one, which was 127, was a desk survey report. It was done within 10 days, and it was almost 2.5 times that. Having listened to the deliberations or seen what is flying in the social media, does this alarm you? Is this not enough for you to start a proper investigation into this one, and at the same time stop the process that the process of the purchase? So you can take that one and the one from Chikwawa West.
Thank you, Chair. Actually, my colleague was addressing the question from Chikwawa West.
Yes, Chair, mine has been responded, but maybe he just forgot to add on the last part where I said maybe you could have extended it. What made you not to extend it according to your mandate? That one, I think I did not respond.
Controlling officer, I'll take that one and the one I have asked.
Chair, let me take yours and my colleagues, since he was answering the question from Honorable Member from Chikwawa West, is going to add on that aspect. Chair, the figure of 128 billion was a concern, and that was a finding in our investigations. Those are one of the 3 issues that we raised in our referral to the Attorney General and in the letter to the fund itself. But I'm looking at corruption investigations where I am with my officers. I don't have capacity, I don't have competence to investigate investment decisions. So I can look at the figure, 128 billion, I can't just say because the figures increased from 47 billion to 128 billion, then there is corruption. It can't be like that. There are other factors that have to be considered. Because the 47 billion you are referring to, Chair, Honorable Chair.
Controlling Officer, there's a point of order from Blantyre Chichiri Misesa.
Thank you very much, Chair. The controlling officer, in answering your question, is just looking at the 128 billion as just an amount. What we are worried with, what we are talking about here, is the origination of the 128 billion. That valuer, AMJ, is not certified. And that amount has been originated from a valuer who is not certified. That's where now we are saying, isn't it that an act that has raised a flag and needs your investigation? The EMJ was here, and during our interaction and through some questions, he admitted that he is not certified. That's why we are saying the valuer is not qualified, is not certified, and the amount of money of 120 billion has come from him to advise the pension fund to go ahead with the sale. Isn't that a corrupt practice? The valuation was done within 10 days. The potential valuers took some time to come up with the valuations. But this valuer, it only took 10 days to come up with 2 days or thereabout. And there was also some issues of conniving with the procurement officer, whereby they were exchanging some phone calls with the procurement officer from pension fund. So as a committee, we are worried that this can be an act of corruption. So you, as the head, can't you see an element from this point of view? Thank you.
Controlling Officer, you can take that one. Because it's just an extension to what I had asked. So in your response, as someone who has been mandated to take charge of all anti-corruption activities and to eliminate them, get to understand as well that we're talking of procurement, which happened within 10 days, signing of terms of reference within the same 10 days, and the production of a report within the same days, and guiding the pension fund within the same days, and within the same 10 days, a sale agreement of 128 billion was arrived at, basing on this dubious or questionable valuer. So as you respond, you may wish to take those over to you, Controlling Officer.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you very much, Honourable Member for Blantyre Chichiri. First of all, as I said, from our investigations and from our letter to the Attorney General and the letter to the fund, we indicated that the escalation of the price was a concern. And we asked that these issues should be addressed. There is a reason why eventually I did not issue a consent to deal. The reason was we never heard back from the fund if they had addressed these concerns. We now heard later, a month or two, that the fund had proceeded to purchase the Amaryllis. At that point in time, it's when it becomes a red flag to say, why did they not come back to say, we have addressed the issues that you have raised? So that's when we start in issues of motive. So if we are to investigate, we'll start from the motive. Why don't you go back to the SCB to address the concern of the price, among others? But we were not able to proceed with that because we had anticipated these proceedings, which are going to come out with more revelations. So generally, in terms of going forward, we would have to wait for these proceedings because they are going to come up with more revelations on top of those we already noted, especially by the decision of the fund to proceed to buy at 128 billion without reverting back to ACB if they had addressed their concerns. Now on EMJ, we got that information, honorable member for Planta Chichiri. We got that information yesterday. There is an issue of doing valuation without being registered. Now, that is an issue on its own. ACB, under the Corrupt Practices Act, we are empowered when we are doing corruption investigation and we have found that another offense has been committed. We are mandated to also investigate that offense. Now, EMJ, before we even talk about alleged corruption, seems to have committed an offense of producing a valuation without being licensed. We are going to follow that up. And further to that, because these are the issues that have arisen yesterday, we are going to follow up on the motivation, on the inducements, on the advantages that might have induced EMJ to produce a favorable report when it was not competent to do so. Thank you very much, Chair.
I see Zomba Sondole. There's Zomba City North. Palombe Machemba. Lilongwe Chirobwe, in that order, please. Then we'll go for another round.
Thank you, Chair, for giving Zomba Sondole a chance. My question lies on the lack of due diligence, lack of inventors' due diligence as one of the allegations from Law Society. The controlling officer said that after their investigation, they found out that there was a due diligence because those valuers were able to come up with the recommendations and risks. One of those valuers being EMJ, which was the film without a license. Now, my question is, of course, by then, they said that they did not know that this film is not licensed. My question now is, having known that that film is not licensed, do the controlling officers still stand that they can tell this committee that there was indeed a due diligence, having known that the film they are relying, their information is not licensed? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Sondole. Palombe Machemba.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity to ask question. The Acting Director General of the ACB. Bwana Director General, Acting Director General, before you became the ACB Director, did you at any point work for any institution or transacted any business on behalf of the owners of Amaryllis Hotel? And if the answer is yes, did you at any point recuse yourself from the decisions relating to the investigation of the Amaryllis sale? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much. Palombe Machemba, Lilongwe Chirobwe.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, I would like to ask the controlling officer, was he satisfied with the transaction price reflected from the market value? The second one is, what prompted the ACB issue a restriction notice? What were the specific risks that prompted the institution to issue one? The other one is, if ACB does not analyze investment, does not assess the price, and does not evaluate quality of due diligence, what exactly did the ACB examine before concluding that there was no evidence of corruption in this transaction? Thank you.
Controlling officer, you may take those three, then we'll go round again.
Thank you, Chair. I'll start by answering a question from Honorable Member from Zomba Sondole. Your question was, in view of the revelations from EMJ, would we still conclude that there was due diligence? To answer that straight away, in view of the revelations of EMJ, we cannot conclude that there was proper due diligence. This, however, is based on the information that we got to know about yesterday. However, at the time we were investigating, remember, the complaint from Malawi Law Society was that there was no due diligence on the transaction. And there, even if we take EMJ, we should put it aside. There were valuation by FDH and the Continental Asset Management. These indicated that the business was viable. The one of Continental Asset Management indicated that the business was viable. The one from FDH said the business was not very profitable, but it didn't rule out that it wasn't outright profitable. So our investigations found that by the time the board members of the fund made a decision to proceed with the purchase, they had all the information they needed to make a decision, both negative information and positive information. So a due diligence in that respect was done, as opposed to the allegation that came that there was completely no due diligence. So that was the perspective that we were looking at in addressing the allegation. Honorable Member from Palombe Machemba, thank you for your question. I have never at any point in time been a lawyer for Amaryllis Hotel in this transaction. Thank you.
Controlling officer, there's a supplementary from Palombe Machemba.
Thank you, Chair. Not the Acting Deputy Director, Acb, not in this particular transaction, but any other transaction. Have you ever worked on behalf of the owners of the Amaryllis Hotel? Thank you, Chair.
Controlling officer. Controlling officer. Kindly switch off the mic, please. The honour member is asking you, as the acting Anti-Corruption Bureau, that in your career as a lawyer, have you at any point worked for the owners of Amaryllis Hotel? Because this issue, controlling officer, was also raised yesterday by the Malawi Law Society. And I had to ask them to wait because you were not in this room. Because as Parliament, we cannot be discussing issues of people who are not available, people who can't defend themselves. So the honour member is riding on what happened yesterday, asking you to confirm or not to. Thank you, controlling officer. You may take that question from Palombe Machemba.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Honourable Member from Palombe Machemba. My response remains in the negative. I have never at any point in time been retained to work as a lawyer for Amaryllis Hotel. Thank you.
So you can Palombe Machemba. The issue is about the owner of Amaryllis Hotel, not specific only Amaryllis Hotel deal at any point. That's maybe the question. At any point, have you interacted with the owner of Amaryllis Hotel at any of his business interactions or business undertakings? Is that the question? Maybe I give you space to phrase it in your own ways. Palombe Machemba.
Thank you, Chair. It's the same question. What I'm asking, what the people, Palombe Machemba, asking the Acting Director General is whether at any point before you became the Acting Director General, you did work for or on behalf of Yusuf Investment Limited. Thank you, Chair.
Controlling Officer, over to you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Honorable Member, for Palombe Machemba. Never at any point in time have I worked for Yusuf Investments Limited. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Controlling Officer, you may proceed to take a question from Lilongwe Chirobwe.
Honorable Member for Lilongwe Chirobwe, I will ask my colleague to respond to the question. Thank you.
Through Chair, Honorable Member of Lilongwe Chirobwe, I should state that when we are investigating this matter, as I already indicated, we are specifically addressing the allegations that were raised in the press statement of the Malawi Law Society. That one was that there was a lack of due diligence. But we found that there were other professionals which were involved. For example, the FDH that has been mentioned, also have some other institutions like Knight Frank, which was at one point hired to do to assess the market value of the property. There were other institutions like Garden City Properties. They also were engaged in coming up with the market value of the property. There were also other institutions like Continental Asset Management doing that due diligence. So basically, our investigations was to check, okay, they are saying there was no due diligence. Is this allegation true? If it's true, then why did they proceed with the transaction without due diligence? So with all these reports that we discovered during investigations that they were produced, some of them by professionals, except this one that we learned yesterday that they were not registered. The mere fact that we had information from most of the professional institutions conducting due diligence, I think it made our scope not to focus much on as to whether is it true each one of them is really competent to do that, how were they engaged, what time frame were they given to do the work. So the moment we thought that there are all these people, many professionals involved, I think it was like we thought the allegation has been addressed. But with these many revelations coming out, definitely we need to dig deeper as to the level of the competence of these people who were hired and how they were hired. Thank you so much.
He was taking the one from Lilongwe Chirobwe. So the owner of the question, are you not satisfied? Yes. Kindly take to the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I'm still having problems just the way how he has answered me, because I'm not really satisfied that the whole Competent Anti-Corruption Bureau can do its work in such a manner. That's really, what can I say? I don't know which adjective I can use to this. You mean you didn't do your thorough work before coming up with such a conclusion in a serious matter like this? Well, still, earlier this morning, we had an interaction with Nico, where they even gave a recommendation to the fund that they should not go on to purchase the Amaryllis Hotel because there was no expert advice from the hospitality advisor. I don't know how the SB overlooked this, such important advice, because they were told not to go ahead because there was no such. And up to now, they don't have any of that in the office. How did they conclude that this was actually okay to go on when they knew that there was no any hospitality expert advice on them? There was no such a thing. And to say that they just did it because they thought they have tackled the issue, when in fact they didn't tackle it, is really unfortunate. Thank you.
Thank you, Lilongwe Chirobwe. Controlling officer.
Thank you very much, honorable member for Lilongwe Chirobwe, for your question and the supplementary question. In my presentation, I did allude to the mandate that we have as ACB. The mandate is to investigate corrupt practices and offenses under the Corrupt Practices Act. That's the mandate and the competence that we have. And I did say that based on the evidence at that particular time, because at that particular time, the sale had not yet been concluded. So at that particular time, we did not have evidence that money had exchanged hands or that there were promises to exchange money or to exchange advantages. However, the very same issues, honorable member, that you have raised by Continental were also raised by the SCB. I did allude that SCB's investigations were the first one, official investigation, to raise the issue of the increased price as a concern, to raise the issue of risks associated with the purchase, the issue you were raising, yeah? To raise the issue of proceeding without fund managers. But when you look at these issues, they are outside my mandate at ACB. That is why I referred them to the relevant authority for this to be considered before proceeding with the transaction. What we were expecting as a bureau was a report, both from the fund and the competent authority we sent. As a bureau, the issues that you have raised, we have tackled them in this. This is a report that says this and that. That is why, as a bureau, even as today, we never issued a consent to deal authorizing them to proceed with the transaction. So, in fact, for the bureau to learn, I did say, to learn that the fund had proceeded to buy the hotel without addressing these issues was a concern. And that was an issue that as a bureau, we were starting to take head on until we heard of these proceedings. And for now, we cannot proceed with that until these proceedings are concluded, and we will take those issues head on together with the recommendations that are going to come from this meeting. Thank you, Chair.
I see a hand from Blantyre Chirobwe. Sorry, Chirobwe was his former constituency. My apologies. Blantyre Chiromoni Nancholi Kabula.
Chair, we have a sworn statement here submitted to the public accounts by Isaac Nkoma. When you go to page 13, number 74, it says in November 2025, EMJ advised the public account submitted an investment analysis report to the trustees of Public Service Pension Trust Fund. The analysis of the report in general showed that the investment in the hotel was viable. On the 17th of November, same month, in your own statement, you are saying that there was YIL Amaryllis Limited and trustees of the time, being the Public Service Pension Trust Fund, signed the subscription and the sales agreement at the consideration of 128,750,000. And then you have included that particular sale agreement in this. Now, why we as Malawians are very worried with what you have just presented is the fact that you kept mentioning that the high price alone may not be evidence of corruption. And how about the speed of the transaction? To say EMJ is engaged in November, which is in your sworn statement, Isaac Nkoma. In your same sworn statement, you are aware that the sale actually happened on the 17th of November. Basically 6 days. Isn't this a clear red flag for you as a person who was doing this investigation? Wasn't this a clear red flag? Secondly, it seems that you are getting information from us when you did the investigation, when we were supposed to get this information from you. Are you aware that the legal advisor of OPC who pushed for the dissolution of the board, which was selected and trained by Reserve Bank of Malawi, eventually became the board chair who approved the purchase of the hotel? And if so, isn't this a red flag? Thirdly, you said, and this is a very worrying statement, you said that you do issue advisory recommendations, and mostly they are ignored by the institutions. Then what is your work really? If you do this kind of, it's like I have a police dog. We grew up knowing police dogs. I have a German Shepherd at home who can't actually bite. Then it means I'm not safe. That's why you see the outcry out there is, this is the work that ACB was supposed to do. So Isaac, in your submission, everything is in here. But the sentiments that keep coming out are like, no. And especially the key thing is, Nico asset managers refused or withdrew at 47 billion a year prior, and later on the value of 128 billion should really raise the alarm. Did you at any point thought it was wise to invite Nico asset managers and ask them as to why they didn't proceed with the sale, or they advised the fund otherwise, so that you should now have an opinion as to whether the 100, because this is where you can now base your argument to say there was an element of corruption or there wasn't. Because I don't know if you did that. Maybe, Chair, I can ask follow-up questions when they respond to that. Thank you.
Controlling Officer, can you take those?
Chair, thank you very much, and thank you, Honourable Member from Blantyre, Chiromon Nanchori. The questions will be addressed by Mr. Isaac Nkoma. Thank you.
Through Chair, thank you so much. There are, I think, three main issues that have been raised. The first one is about the EMJ's report being submitted very close to the dates in which the agreement or the sale purchase was signed. The other one was that the chair of the board, the current one, the same legal officer who was more like pushing that the old board should be resolved, and now is the chair of the committee, and with his coming, the agreement is being signed. The other issue is during our investigations, did we interact with the officers of Nico Asset Management and appreciate why they withdrew from the transactions? I'll start with the EMG recommendation. Looking at the close dates in which these people were engaged, the report that they produced, and also being very close to the dates in which the agreement was signed, raised a serious concern. However, on its own, bearing in mind that there were also some other institutions that did analyze the business analysis and the structural integrity reports, and all of them actually pointed out at operational risks and not necessarily issues to do with the corruption. At that time, we recommended that the price which has been recommended by AMG, it's too high and it has to be investigated by maybe other law enforcement agencies or the registrar of financial institutions. That's why we made a recommendation that this should be referred. If there are issues that may point that there is criminality and it's to do with the corruption, then the investigation may be reopened. Mind you, we are looking at proving beyond reasonable doubt when we are dealing with the criminal matters. So by just a report being close to signing of the contract without any other evidence as to whether there were some other wrongdoings, then that alone couldn't conclude that there is corruption and we stop the transaction. On the NICO issue, we interviewed the officers of NICO Asset Management. They told us that indeed they were engaged, and at one point they were even instructed by the pension fund to make an offer that the pension fund would buy the hotel at 48.7, and they went to the extent of engaging a lawyer to proceed to draft the agreement. But they withdrew after observing that there were operational risks. And when we interviewed further, what they mentioned was that at that particular time, pension fund had not identified an expert or someone in the hotel management who could take over at the moment that the hotel is purchased to run the hotel. The other thing is that pension fund and also the owners of the Amaryllis hotel were not coming out clear on how they are going to carve out the Amaryllis hotel from use of investments so that the new buyer can take over the business without cutting over the loans. So to us, these were operational risks, and they advised pension fund wanted to proceed with the transaction, and they made a decision to pull out. That's why the NICO officers told us So from that information, unfortunately, we did not find enough evidence to say that corruption was committed or corrupt practices were done in this transaction. Thank you.
Chair.
Controlling officer, there's a note from Blantyre Chiromoni.
Mr. Nkoma, are you sure you are really telling this committee that you saw no red flags on the jump from 47 billion, which was declined by Nico Asset Managers, to 128 billion 12 months later?
Mr. Nkoma, take that one.
Thank you so much, Chair. I mentioned that it was a serious concern, and that's why we made a recommendation that the financial institution or the registrar should take up the issue, because we are not finding elements, all the elements that we can prove that there was corruptive practices. But these were red flags, and that's why we raised to relevant authorities to investigate that matter.
Chair, if I may,
maybe before controlling officer, you want other relevant authorities to investigate that matter. Where is your relevance as SCB?
Thank you very much, Chair. At this juncture, as I already said, we noted three. First of all, maybe if I were to put this into context, Malawi Law Society had asked the Attorney General to investigate the matter. And at the point of investigating the matter, it was a referral from the Office of the Attorney General. When we investigated the matter and finalized, there were elements of corruption or abuse of office which are within our mandate. But there were these other issues which have nothing to do with corruption per se or abuse of office, but had to do with investment and the prudential decisions. Now, because these were within our mandate and competence, it is when we referred the issues to the relevant authority or relevant authorities, to investigate them. Not that SCB could not investigate them, but as I said, we don't work in abstract. Most of the times, we have been able to turn complaints back from several entities to say, as SCB, we cannot investigate this before or without a forensic audit report. Can you go back and do a forensic audit report? Because the forensic audit report contains technical issues which those technical people are able to probe, and we start from there. Now, the reason we referred these issues to technical people was for them to come up with conclusive findings to say, there is no way you can buy Amaryllis Hotel at 128 billion in 2025. That as SCB, we don't have capacity because my investigators don't have capacity in those issues. But if the relevant authorities come with that, as SCB, I'll start from there now. So that's where, not that we couldn't investigate, but we need to have a springboard for the investigations, because there are technical issues that have to be investigated by the people who know them, and then refer to us for us to proceed from there. That is why we noted the risks and referred to the technical people to investigate. We were expecting that they would come back to us. That is why we did not issue a consent to deal. And probably now what we should be thinking about is what motivated the fund to proceed with the purchase without addressing these issues. There, the elements of corruption, the elements of motive, the elements of inducement can be traced. So probably the investigation at this level were too early for ACB because we did not have the benefit of forensic report. That's why I suggested let's have a forensic report. Let's have reports on conclusive reports from technical people on investments. Then as ACB, we build from there because we don't work on abstract as in abstract. Thank you.
There's Blantyre and Ancholi. I see Blantyre Central. There's a hand next to Samulanje West. We go in that order. But as they're asking questions, controlling officer, you may also consider to tell this committee why looking at the speed at which the transaction was happening, you escalated to relevant institutions without assigning each other clear timelines, because the speed at which the transactions were happening were alarming. Did you give timelines to those you felt would help you as ACB? That please can you, by such a time, give us with information, looking at the speed at which people were set to execute this. Blantyre Chiromoni?
Looking at the
Blantyre Chiromoni, only the OPC person who ended up at the pension fund, you did not take that one because he moved from OPC and ended up being a chair on the other end. That one you didn't. So before we proceed, can you take that one?
Through Mr. Nkoma is going to take that question. Thank you.
Please, Mr. Nkoma, proceed.
Thank you so much, Chair. At the time when we were investigating this matter, as I mentioned, basically we are looking at the press statement from Malawi Law Society. So we didn't know that we also have to find out how the body was constituted, who is there, how did you come into the body. Honestly, we do not do that angle, and I didn't know that the chair is coming from OPC, and he had some transaction or some issues before joining the board of trustees of pension fund. Thank you.
Blantyre Chiromoni.
Chair, I think in all honesty, the principal investigation officer dropped the ball. Whether he did that deliberate or otherwise, it's something that this committee must investigate. Their entire budget as the ACB is something between 4 billion to 5 billion. Any figure or jump or difference from 47 billion to 128 billion should shock any investigation or any investigator in the ACB, if ACB really has investigators. Otherwise, we are going round and round. What we expected you was at that point, since you had first issued a restriction notice, maybe you could have extended, because you had a chance to extend the restriction notice. Secondly, if you saw that the figure was higher, because the difference from 47 billion, which was denied, to 128 billion, can actually run your institution for over 20 years. That's how big, because we have to understand what is the value of 128 billion. What is the value in the difference between 47 billion and 128 billion? We are talking about 128 billion as if we are talking about 120,000. How, you know, in our budget, we procured fertilizer about 120 billion. That's an amount for a subsidy for the whole country. That's how big 128 billion is. So I think when we're talking about 128 billion, people think that it's not as that simple and easy. For 12 months, you receive 5 billion or less than 5 billion. There was a time I think they had proposed to receive 6 billion. I don't remember, but plus minus you are between 3 and 5 billion. Any difference in that figure should shock you. And Principal Investigating Officer, are you aware that the Public Service Pension Trust Fund has a investment policy statement where it clearly states that in any, and I'll take you straight to 3.37 of the IPS investment constraints, where it says prohibited investments. I'm sure as an investigating officer you should have gone through this. So that's what I'm assuming. Direct investments shall not be permitted in unquoted entities, venture capital funds, or collective investment schemes without a thorough assessment and recommendation by investment managers and prior written approval of the trustees. In the case of Amaryllis, it's an unquoted investment, which only the 3 recommended managers, Nico Asset, Continental, and Old Mutual, should have approved. That's the reason why I asked you. If you were going to Nico, you were not just going there to show us that at least should something happen in future, I called Nico. But you were supposed to follow this because this is key. The lead flag, that's why I asked you, were you not aware of that lead flag? Because everything, there are so many indicators in this thing. So many indicators in this thing. And finally, investigation officer, if you had 1.1 trillion, would you invest in a project 128 billion when one of your sons advised you not to invest it at 47 billion? Thank you, Chair.
Over to you, controlling officer, and your team, because this is slightly longer. I thought you can take that one, the investigative colleague.
Okay, thank you so much, Chair. I think I have to make it clear that when we said that after investigating this matter, we did not find enough evidence that to prove that there were corrupt practices. We know, and we raised this issue, that the price has been, it appears it has been inflated. But as the acting director general has mentioned, there are experts out there who can do this thing thoroughly. There are technical people out there. We thought that we should refer this matter to those people so that they do the thorough investigations. And if they tell us that according to fiduciary responsibilities or investment issues, there were these things which we think went wrong. And then for us now would be now digging deeper as to why did these people proceeded.
Well, you can hold your point of order for now. Because I had already recognized, I'll give you point of order. Controlling officer, there's a point of order here.
Can you then tell us the reason why we should pass your budget come April 1st, 2026? Because if you can't pick the red flags and stop the mess from happening, then why should we fund your institution?
Other members, let me guide this way. When you have a new question, let's raise them as new questions, because I want, as much as I can, to make sure that honor members we're using the expertise in this room. So, controlling officer, maybe you may take that one and we proceed. Blantyre Chiromoni, wait. Can we have the other takers? I had recognized Blantyre.
He has not finished it. He has not finished talking. Point of order.
Can I have order from Blantyre Chiromoni? You're still responding to Blantyre Chiromoni, but I want to make sure that on top of the submissions, you pick it from where Blantyre Chiromoni has stopped. You start from there to respond to his queries. So we have Blantyre Central. Then I had already recognized Mulanje South, Mulanje West. In that order, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. The controlling officer, your statement notes that certain governance issues arose during the transaction process, including questions around documentation of some decisions and the conduct of certain officials. Am I correct in understanding that while the investigation identified administrative or governance concerns, the Bureau ultimately determined that the available evidence did not meet the threshold required to establish criminal corruption? Secondly, controlling officer through chair, given the level of public interest surrounding this matter, there has been considerable attention on how the investigation was conducted. Controlling officer, can you please confirm to the committee that the investigation was carried out independently by the Bureau and that its findings were based mainly and solely on the evidence gathered during the investigation process? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much. Can I have Mulanje West?
Thank you so much, Chair, and all my seniors. I've heard the explanation by the acting SB, but also the principal investigator. Having heard from different stakeholders who've been coming here, it seems as if the issue has started in 2023, 2024, 2025, and here we are, 2026. And it means it has changed the government and the officers as well. And you've told us that you wrote the principal officer who said there's nothing of that nature, but also you told us about consulting other people also to help or to advise how to go about it. From the look of the things, one, we might look into the 128 billion, yes, as a thing which we're supposed to take it seriously, but also we might look into from the 2023, 2024, 2025, whereby some of the officials were working solely without even some of the board or the trustees or board members. It means there was some sort of corruption. Before you came in the office, did you find your predecessor to say, where did you stop with the investigation? Or did you also find out from all those, the principal person who were there, working without even the other stakeholders, two, the trustees, that why is it that they made sure that they've got to spend 128, though we are going to ask them when they come, 128 billion, knowing that we had 200 billion of officers who were not even paid? Did you find that? If you didn't, can we ask you to do that? Yes, you might pass your bill, but we wanted you to work and find out all those that you can even find out and trace where where the loopholes, who benefited. Maybe it might be some people didn't benefit and they're whistling, the blowers, the whistles now to say, we didn't get this. Those are also corruption. If they're whistling and they're hiding after whistleblowers and they're not even coming to Anti-Corruption Bureau, it means they didn't benefit from it. That's corruption as well. And find out from those as well and let us know what is it, because you said you are still investigating. Those who were involved from 2023, keep digging hard in those. what happened, 2024 what happened, 2025 what happened, even now when you've resumed the office, because we might give you a lot of dust, yet some of those people who've done it, they're hiding undercover. So uncover them, find out from them, and let us know what is it. Apart from the 128 billion, but there are those corruption which took place. So this is what we are trying to say, or to find out from you. And since you didn't have much information, we are giving you that information, we are giving you that responsibility to dig from there. This is an issue which has taken two government, two officers. Did you find out the acting director of Anti-Corruption Bureau? Your friend who was there, where did he stop? Are these investigators helping you? Where did he stop with this issue? And from there, did you now maneuver from there to say we are going to start from this to find out what has happened? Thank you so much.
Controlling officer, you have 2 questions. Rilongo I've seen you. We'll come to you, but I want to exhaust the questions which have been asked. You begin with one from Blantyre Chiromoni, and then you proceed to Blantyre Central, and which has asked about 2 questions. Then you proceed to respond to Mulanje West. But take note that since this is a house of record, ACB's budget currently stands at 10 billion. I think there was an issue to talk about 5 billion, so it's at 10 billion. So the other substantive issues which Blantyre Chiromoni submitted stands. It's only on the figure on the budget. Controlling officer.
Thank you, Chair, and the honourable member for Blantyre Chiromoni. Your question was, since you did not pick the red flags, should we continue, should we fund you for this financial year? We picked, honourable member, we picked the red flags. If I may be allowed. ACB did not find sufficient evidence to sustain charges of corrupt practices. Notwithstanding the foregoing, the investigations highlight concerns about the purchase of hotel, including operational risk. So that was the first red flag we raised, operational risk. 2, lack of involvement of fund managers. That was the second red flag. 3, the increased purchase price. That was the third flag. So I understand, honourable members, your concerns about these issues. And as I said, these are the issues that were even unearthed by the ACB's investigations. However, from where we stand, my investigators don't have the capacity to investigate these issues because, per se, they do not relate to corruption. They relate to investment and the prudential decisions. Now, we need an entity that can authoritatively make these findings. From there, then that entity would have to revert back to us with recommendations. And based on those recommendations, that's when we would proceed with our investigations relating to corruption or abuse of office. That is why we referred these concerns. And in our letter, we said, we therefore refer the matter to your office to consider addressing these concerns. Why would this office address these concerns? Because it has got the capacity to address these concerns by instituting the relevant maybe audits or reports and then coming back to ACB. But once we did that, we never heard on what steps had been done to address these concerns. Now, the risks were there. We noted them, honourable member. So obviously, we need to be given funding because we noted the risks and we referred them to the relevant authorities. The issue which we should be grappling now is why did the sale proceed without addressing these issues? What motivated the fund to proceed with the sale without addressing these issues. That's where we will now start developing the motive. That's where the evidence, that's where the investigations on corruption really starts. Honorable Member for Blantyre Central, we identified governance concerns, but indeed these did not meet the threshold of criminal sanctions. That is why the choice of words in our recommendation was that the Bureau did not find sufficient evidence to sustain charges of corrupt practices. Because it is not easy to prove corruption or corrupt practices, which means when we are making a finding, it has to be a finding that would prove the allegations beyond reasonable doubt. That is why it is a problem for us to say, because there is an enhanced increment, then that means there was corruption. We can't do that unless we have evidence from technical people with competent authorities who should tell us that there is no way the price could be enhanced like this. Up until now, we don't have evidence, conclusive evidence, to say the price, there is no way the price could have increased like this, taking into account all other factors. If we have that evidence now, based on reports that would be made by by people with the technical capacity and people with mandate, that's where we would start from, because those people would tell us why that is not possible, it is not possible, why it was not possible to buy Amaryllis Hotel at 128 billion in 2025. And from there, that's where we start looking at motives, looking at whether people received money, and so on and so forth. So that's where we stand, because we need technical reports, forensic reports to justify our investigations. Honorable Member for Mulanje West, we did note that there were issues concerning with people who were making decisions when there was no board, and that is an issue that we are following up, because actually we received a new complaint on that one. And further, if you remember from our recommendations, we said we need a forensic audit report covering a long period of time or a substantial period of time for us to see what has been happening at the fund. That forensic audit report is going to unearth a lot of issues. Those issues will be a springboard for us now to start looking at whether there was corruption. But in the absence of technical reports from people who have got the capacity, people who have the capacity in issues of investment, the Bureau on its own cannot investigate and conclude. That's why we stopped the transaction, referred, and we were waiting for feedback. We never got feedback. That's why, up until now, from our books, Acb has not sanctioned the transaction, from where I stand, because we never got feedback on whether these issues had been addressed, only to learn from the media that the sale completed. That's now, from that, we started looking at reopening the investigations, because that gave us now a red flag that there is something that is being hidden. But before we did that, it's when we stopped to give way to the inquiry by this honorable committee. Thank you.
Controlling officer, if you can recall, throughout these deliberations, your investigator has time and again limited himself to the report from Malawi Law Society, which was here yesterday. But if you had noticed that in that report there are red flags, what failed the investigator to follow the evidence? Because much as we are seeing that there is capacity gap in the investigations department, but these are basics. Assuming we are conducting this inquiry in this room, then maybe out of leakage, we decide to go into the next room. Then having discussions, I realized that no, in the room that we were in, this room, the original room, I've forgotten a document, maybe the one that you submitted. Then upon entering in this room, I encounter a dead body. Do I have to ignore that dead body and proceed to look for my documents and go away and ignore the dead body because I was not sent into this room to look for that dead body? I was thinking of getting just a document. Will you say no? If this dead body, the police will say will do this, but you as a citizen, I think there's something that is being. I think there's something that is holding the bureau from doing some of the things. Because time and again, your investigator said, now we've just gotten this information. Is he trying to say that the Parliament has more evidence or investigators than ACB? Because ideally, ACB was supposed to be on top. Do you want your Parliament to help you to have capacity building trainings? Maybe these are some of the things, listening to what we are discussing here, I see there's a lot of capacity gap. You are new into that office. Having interacted with your officials, do you feel that in your budget there's a need as Parliament to ensure that you have more budget so that we can have ACB which can stamp on real evidence, which has teeth so that it can bite, so that people out there can be proud that yes, this is the ACB that we wanted. This is the ACB that wanted to bite. Do you have that idea, or in your budget, have you included issues or budgets in relation to capacity building, or we'll leave it at that stage? Controlling officer?
Thank you very much, Chair. I will start with the issue of capacity building. We always have a training budget in our budget. And one thing that I found when I joined the Bureau in November, I found that for the past 3 years, people who had just joined the Bureau had not gone for mandatory competence training for 3 years.
What?
Yes.
The investigative, the investigative, principal investigative officer, for how long has he served in the Bureau?
From 2012. I joined the Bureau in 2012.
On top of my head, you're talking of somewhere around 13 years serving the Bureau.
Yes.
Have you undertaken capacity building trainings?
Yes.
Proceed, controlling officer.
Thank you, Chair. I was addressing issue of capacity building, how critical it is. And I was giving an example that for the past 3 years, about 60 people who had joined the Bureau had not gone for mandatory competence training. And when I came in, I made sure that they go. So directly responding to your question, the issue of capacity building is indeed dire at the ACB. And in our budget, we put a budget for training. Allow me to take an analogy on the Chair on your issue that if we have gone out of this room and we have come back and found a dead body, we're not going to do anything. No, it's not that we are not going to do anything. We will do something. Apart from our primary mandate, the Corrupt Practices Act allows the ACB, when it is investigating corrupt practices or an offense under the Act, and it finds another offense during those investigations, the Act allows ACB to also investigate that offense. But the problem that we encounter mostly is the problem of competence. So, for example, we are investigating a corrupt practice. While in the process of investigating a corrupt practice, we have found that someone has committed an immigration offense. In most of the cases, because we don't have capacity to investigate an immigration offense, although the law may allow us, we referred to say, while investigating our primary mandate, we have found an immigration offense. But although the law says we can, but we are referring it to you as immigration to investigate it because you have got the capacity. Now, this is what happened in this case. We found the dead body, and the dead body was the risks associated with the sale, the enhanced price of the hotel, including the proceeding with the sale without fund managers. These are the dead bodies that we found. Now, we referred them as well to the competent bodies with competent mandates to come up with reports, conclusive reports on those issues. From there, it's when as SCB we would start building on those reports because we can't work in abstract. That is why we never issued a consent to deal on the transaction. Thank you, Chair.
I see Zomba City North and Lilongwe Chirobwe. In that order, please. I see Blanta Chiromon. What has gone out of order, Chitipa Central?
Yeah, before I raise my point of order, allow me to appreciate the controlling officer for indicating that they are going to reopen the investigation. They were about to name their possible organization to be investigated, and you pended it. Is it in order, Honorable Chair, for your office to deny the people of Chitipa Central to know the possible people to be investigated? Thank you, Chair.
Controlling officer, will take. Can you take that one?
Chair, I thought the question was being addressed to you with the point of order.
Yeah, the question is addressed to you because he only asked the guidance from you and you pended it. All what you needed, Chair, was to say go ahead. So it's up to Chair to say go ahead, then he will give us names, Chair.
But I said controlling officer. This, for me, is a go-ahead because we're here. Maybe on top of what he has asked, because if you're opening this investigation and you've talked of capacity gap, can Malawians trust you and your team that are basing on these things? Because it seems the investigator is evasive to a certain extent. Can Malawians, as you have clearly said, trust you with the new investigation, that this investigation shall be independent, with undue influence from any other person, up until Malawians will say, yeah, now ACB is ticking? Controlling officer?
Thank you so much, Chair. Where we stand as of now, the possible entities or people that we may or we will proceed to investigate as follows, based on your direction that I should indicate the name. One, we will investigate the directors of the fund for proceeding to purchase the hotel without addressing the three risks that they were aware of, which we had addressed to them in the letter of 3rd January 2026. Because that letter is clear on the concerns, and we had expected them to address the concerns without proceeding. What motivated them to proceed to buy the hotel without coming back to the Bureau to address the concerns? Because we also heard from the newspapers that actually the hotel was purchased. So that's the first. We will investigate the directors of the fund to find out their motivation. Two, we will investigate EMJ. Three, we will investigate the principal officer, because if there are issues with this transaction, then they did not start with the new board. Because the transaction, as it has already been said, started in 2023. And from 2024 to 2025, for 1 year, there was no board. And all these decisions were being made by the principal officer, including commitments that the fund was going to buy the hotel. So we cannot fault the transaction without faulting the principal officer as well. He also needs to explain his role. So for now, so far, there is the principal officer, the EMJ, and the directors of the fund, who would have to explain their motives for proceeding in the manner that they did. Whether
controlling officer, now I think you are aligned. We can say that we can see the ACB now. Unakakala kunja kuti nakati inuyo mabwera. But we want more. Can you have clear timelines? Because the money has been lost, if we may use that word. We want something that the people out there will see that no, our money is safe. Because this money, our controlling officer, is the money for that poor teacher. Is the money of our age groups. Because it's somewhere, those who were born around 1982 and above, those are the ones who are going to benefit from this. So this is, people want real action. Not action based on character assassination, but action based on conclusive evidence. We're not asking ACB to go out there just to vent anger on innocent Malawians, but to do the job based on evidence. Where you feel that Parliament can be of help, do that. Where you feel that other institutions can help you, but as you make those requests, controlling officer, attach clear timelines that we want this done on date B, on date A or date C. If such things are not done, then this committee will call you. When you do those things, submit to this committee that on by such a day, we want these things done. By such a day, we want A done, B done, so that we provide real oversight without just leaving it open-ended. We don't want this investigation to be one of those talk shows that Malawi has always been having. We want results. Controlling officer?
Thank you very much, Chair. It's indeed true that we are aligned, and in my report, I did indicate that the ACB stands ready to reopen the investigations. And I understand that currently, because I don't have information, but I hear that 90 billion was paid. We are going immediately to reissue another restriction notice to prevent payment of the balance until the matter is conclusively investigated, and we are going to have to come back to you within 2 days with the timelines we are going to undertake.
Thank you so much, Controlling Office. I see, I recognize the Blantyre, there was Zomba North, City North, but since there is a supplementary from Chitipa Central, can we have Chitipa Central, then Zomba City North?
Yeah, before you said now we have aligned, I think the list was still going on, but in case it's not what I was thinking, if already 90 billion has already been paid, that's what they have just lent. And also what I've heard is that it was paid in a hurry, so maybe you can add on the list the people who authorized that payment, that bullet payment in a hurry, because I think 90 billion cannot be paid like you are paying $1 million. So I wanted it to supplement by adding on the list those who paid, if you can, our controlling officer. Thank you.
Controlling officer, I think you've understood what Chitipa Central has said. You may wish to engage a controlling officer, Financial Intelligence Authority. Their colleagues is headed by an able lawyer that side. So all of you belong to Malawi's law society. So make sure that you are aligned. We need results. Over to you, controlling officer.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you very much, Honorable Member, for Chitipa Central. I must say that immediately from here, I will write a letter to Financial Intelligence Authority to consider freezing the account into which the money went until the investigations are concluded.
Thank you so much, controlling officer. Zomba City North.
Thank you, Chair. Besides the list of action that the acting ACB director has provided to this committee, and having said what you have submitted to this committee, I wanted to find out from you, the ACB director acting, for the period that you have been at the helm of this bureau, would you be satisfied that you have served this nation well? And if indeed you have served this nation well, what are the key issues that you can attribute it to that can showcase that indeed you have served Malawians so well? Thank you, Chair.
Controlling officer, maybe before you take that one, we take from Planter Chiromoni and the Lilongwe Chirobwe.
You see, Chair, earlier when I requested for the point of order, was because they had all the time to stop that mess from happening. They failed to protect the funds money, and the reason why I keep pointing at the principal investigations officer is because one, he's been there longer enough, he's got experience, and he's the one who has submitted the sworn statement. But Chair, they kept saying that ACB they couldn't investigate the fraud and the practice because at that moment the issues that they were dealing with were more technical than the ACB investigators could handle. Nico asset managers in their report indicated non-viability of the proposed sale, and these are the experts who are doing that. What is it that you as ACB did not see in the expertise on Nico asset managers that you needed someone else to handle other than you yourself as ACB? Because for me, Chair, we would have, that 90 billion would not have been paid. Now, we can say we are going to issue restriction to stop the mess. That money was paid long ago. All the banks that were owed have already collected their money. That money is not even there in that account if you go today. So, yes, what is it that you are going to do to get that money back, if indeed that's the direction we are going to take? Thank you, Chair. And finally, you had indicated that the investigations were self-generated. Didn't you receive a formal submission from Malawi Law Society about the investigation? Because Malawi Law Society said one of your officers acknowledged a receipt of an email from Malawi Law Society. Do you deny that you received the complaint from Malawi Law Society? Because in area, I think the principal investigation officer said that the investigations were self-generated. I want you to come out clear on that. Thanks.
You can take that one. Yes, no Chirobwe.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mine are two, if not three questions. The first one is to know, through you, Mr. Chair, the controlling officer, you know, the inflated prices, especially in public procurement, is one of the common corrupt practice. Why did you detect this if you're indeed a professional institution? And the second one is the motive behind you removing the restriction on the restriction notice. You know, by the Anti-Corruption Bureau removing the restriction notice, it was a clear indication that there was nothing harmful to the transaction. That gave way. It was one way of giving them way that it's okay, you can do the transaction, there are no problems with this. And you didn't see anything. And today, because you are being asked to squeeze more, you are saying you come out now with a later withholding the money that is in the account that was deposited to you. How can you assure the nation that you're going to collect the money? The first thing. The second thing is you seem not to be indeed very ready. What, Mr. Chair, if you give them a chance to go back and come back well prepared? The last one, when your Amaryllis Hotel was meeting the Reserve Bank of Malawi, there was a lawyer who represented the Amaryllis Hotel, and my intelligence information is telling them that it's you the controlling officer, was the lawyer for Amaryllis Hotel. And before oath in this before this committee, you told us that you never did anything with Amaryllis Hotel. Can you verify this? Can you refute this, that you are not the lawyer who was with the Amaryllis Hotel before the Reserve Bank? Thank you.
Controlling officer, these are two key questions. One from Blanta Chilomoni, then that one from Lilongwe Chirobwe. Controlling officer, and Zomba City North. The first was from Zomba City North. From Zomba City North, we went to Blanta Chilomoni. After Blanta Chilomoni, we were at Lilongwe Chirobwe. In that order, please.
Thank you, Chair. Allow me to start responding to the question from Honorable Member from Lilongwe Chirobwe. The first question, I'll start with the last question. Honorable Member, I can confirm that I don't know any meeting that was there between Amaryllis Hotel and Reserve Bank. And if there was such meeting and there was a lawyer, that lawyer was not me. And this is under oath. Thank you. The second question related to lifting of the restriction notice. By operation of law, a restriction notice has to fall off when you have completed investigations and at that time you have not found evidence. The issues that are coming now are superseding or are coming after the removal of the restriction notice. So now, based on the issues that came out, the realization, I did indicate that when we heard that the fund had proceeded to buy the hotel without reverting to the Acb, we were on the verge of commencing or reopening the investigations until we decided to give room to the proceedings of this honorable committee because they are going to unearth more. So I also indicated that a restriction notice is just a tool, it's not an end. It can be removed anytime by the court or upon expiry, which means the body concerned still has got a responsibility to ensure that it is doing things in a right way. So even if we had not issued the restriction notice, the fund had a responsibility to ensure that it was doing issues in a right way because the responsibility of buying rested with the funds, with the fund. And the fact that the fund opted not to address the issues that were raised, that showed that the fund did not opt to be responsible in this transaction. And that was the point, that was the starting point of our intention to reopen the investigations until we gave room to these proceedings. So the key issue is consent to deal. We never issued a consent to deal. That's the key issue, honorable member. Honorable member, I've forgotten the constituents, but you asked if I am satisfied that I've done good work for the bureau so far. Well, it looks like an interview question, but I would say so far I have done what I was supposed to do. To begin with, I think now the public can see that there is Acb that is working on all areas, in corruption prevention, in public education, in investigations, and in prosecutions. There is an Acb that is willing to interact with the public. Over time and again, Acb is issuing press releases on the work that we are doing. There is another issue that I have introduced at Acb, which is prompt investigations. When I was coming to Acb, I found a culture where investigations were taking place maybe 2 years, 5 years. I introduced a key strategic policy that we need to do prompt investigations and prompt prosecutions. So even some of the cases that we have started arrests, I will not mention the cases, but I can mention because I'm not mentioning the substantive issues. Like, for example, the Greenbelt case, it was started and finished within a month, almost a month. The immigration cases, these were started and finished within a month. Now we have started arrests. The East Bridge case, these are the cases that I have authorized investigations myself. These are not the cases that I already found under investigations. So we are still working to put the Bureau at a place where it was supposed to be. I've just done 4 months. It's not enough time for me to implement all the issues that I would want. So far, looking at what we have done, partly I can't explain everything due to time, and looking at the time, I think I have worked satisfactorily. I don't know if I have omitted a question.
Yes. Controlling officer, can you take the one from Blantyre Chiromoni? Blantyre Chiromoni?
Maybe, Honorable Member, could you, can I humbly request you to, maybe if you could consider repeating?
Blantyre Chiromoni?
I wanted to find out from okay. I started with a comment to say, much as we are saying that there will be a restriction order on the account that where the 90 billion went, I made a comment to say that money is not there, will not be there. I think what we needed to do was to protect that mess from happening in the first place, which we didn't. And then that followed, because when I raised the point of order, I kept saying, because FCB kept insisting that they didn't have the capacity, technical capacity to investigate. And my question was, SCB is saying that they can't investigate fraud and corrupt practices because at that moment, the issues that were, for them to investigate were too technical for their investigators to handle. Nico Asset Management, in their report, indicated the non-viability of the proposed sale. And Nico Asset Managers are the experts. What is it that you as SCB did not see in the expertise in Nico Asset Management that you needed someone else to handle the investigation other than yourselves? I submit, Chair.
And there was another one from Zomba City North.
No, in supplementing to what Blantyre Chiromoni Nancholi has said, that's why I posed that question, that this far, would you say that you have served Malawi as well? Because the red flags were raised long before, and under your watch. And this is why I was expecting from you, it was expected of you to pronounce that by today, having seen that the red flags were raised, but no action was done, maybe it calls for an investigation over your bureau as well. Why did you fail to do the needful in time? Thank you, Chair.
Which is of Lilongwe Chirobwe.
Thank you, the Chair. Mine is just a supplemental question to the controlling officer. Even if corruption was not established, does the SCB believe the transaction met the good governance standards for managing public pension funds? From 47 billion, where they were looking for a deduction of 10 to 12%, which could go down up to 30 billion, 228 billion, and you authorize that and think that, oh, it's okay, it's okay. Do you think the public pension funds were well secured? Thank you.
Controlling officer, maybe before you take that, that builds up to 3. Zomba Sondole.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to supplement on the question of Blantyre Chiromoni. Say that even if the controlling officer is going to order for the freeze of the accounts, the money is not there. So when he is going to answer that question, maybe he can also add on what is it that they are going to do so that the money that has already been paid should be recovered. Thank you, Chair.
Controlling officer.
Thank you, Chair, and the honorable members. Well, for now, I'm responding to the question from honorable member for Zomba, Sondole, and the Blantyre Chiromoni. For now, I take your word, honorable member, that the money is not there. Probably I know you cannot just speak that if you didn't have information. But probably if as ACB we would be allowed to find that for ourselves and make the necessary determination on the way forward, it would be better. Secondly, honorable member from your other issue, honorable member from honorable member for Blantyre Chiromoni. You indicated that NICO asset indicated the non-viability of the hotel, and NICO are experts. That also has to be looked at from the fact that there are other experts who indicated viability of the hotel, not EMG, but the Continental Asset Management, and further, FDH didn't come out clear to say the business is viable, but it said the business is not very profitable, which meant there was an element of some profit. So these are experts, but there are a few contradictions amongst themselves. So as SCB, where do we start from? That is why we had referred these issues, so that an authority above the expert, most likely the regulator, should come out with a more conclusive opinion on which we would have based our decision to go forward. Honorable member for Zomba, Folirongwe, Chirobwe. As the SCB, we did not see nothing wrong with the transaction. We saw that there were concerns with the transaction, but the concerns at that time did not reach a threshold for us to find evidence of corrupt practices. And as SCB, we were the first ones to do investigations that give that identified these concerns. Probably, I might not answer on behalf of the other entities, but it still remains, because it is not only SCB's advisory per se that was ignored. On 23rd December, there was a letter from the registrar of financial institutions, the one that came after me, which also had identified some risks. It is in here. And that letter clearly told the fund, don't proceed with the transaction until you mitigate these risks. Now, the fund does not only, disobey SCB, he goes ahead to disobey, it goes ahead to even to disobey its own regulator. Should that be a problem that should be attributed to SCB? So that's why there are motives now. After learning that they did not do what they were requested, that's why we were on the verge of reopening the investigations to establish the motives. Why are they insisting with this transaction? Because initially we didn't know that the transaction had concluded until we learned about it a few weeks ago. So probably that's why I had said, if you advise someone and he does not obey, do you go to the one who advised to say, why did this person not obey you? So the fund has a lot to answer as to why it did not consider the issues that had been raised by the SCB and supported by the registrar of financial institutions. Chair, one of my colleagues has got a supplementary on my response.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to supplement to what the Acting Director General said on what would happen if the 90 billion is no longer in the account. So what we do, we follow the money. We trace who withdrew the money, if somebody withdrew the money, and profile that person, what properties has they acquired during that period. And if we have evidence that the property was acquired from process of crime in relation to the offense we are investigating, that property will have to be confiscated. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Controlling Officer, for that submission from one of your officers. I think next time he has to be taking more issues.
Yeah. Yes, Chair. Thank you. There is another suggested supplementary from the Director of Legal and Prosecutions.
Please proceed.
Thank you very much, Chair and honorable members. My supplementary is the same to the question by Brantaya Chiromoni and the Zomba and Sondoli. I think the question is critical. What do we do where funds were stolen or funds need to be recovered? I think the law allows us to recover what they call realizable funds. So it's not necessarily the funds that were stolen, but what you can realize from the person or from the entity. So what I wanted to add is that there are different legal mechanisms that we deploy in that instances, but the circumstances will tell. Where the monies have been used, the law will give us different options. So maybe when we get there, we'll be able to see how to take it up. Thank you very much, Chair.
I think we'll take the last one from Lilongwe Chirobwe, so that yes.
Okay, thank you, Chair. My last question to you, the controlling officer, is that how independent are you from any political interference or any other external influences in how you're going to execute your duties? Because from the way we see these things, there must be some invisible hands who are playing a role in all this. The speedy way of how you could get the transaction done in 6 days, the change of value from 47 billion to 128 billion is something that everyone could not ignore, but you managed to ignore. How can you assure this committee that you'll be really independent from any influence? Thank you.
Before you take that one, you had reflected on Blanta Chirobwe, so that will be the last one. Chirobwe.
I think what needs to come out very clear is that your role and responsibility as SCB, especially Mr. Isaac, you dropped the ball. You should have prevented this mess in the first place. Your responsibility is to ensure you safeguard that. That's what we are. So you can try to use as much legal instruments you can to delay, to ensure that public funds are being protected. Otherwise, although you didn't answer me properly, that's why I said I do not see a reason why. Your budget last year was 10.9 billion. Now you are proposing to come to 12 billion. I don't see a reason why we should give you that increment. But that one we'll discuss when we get to that stage. Chair.
They don't have to answer it. Controlling officer, you can take the one from Blantaya, Lilongwe Chirobwe. The last one, according to Blantaya Chiromoni, it's just a comment.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member, for Lilongwe Chirobwe. Be assured that at the Bureau, we are independent, and the reopened investigations will be done not only independently, but also transparently. And we'll continue engaging this committee during the process. Thank you very much, Honorable.
Thank you so much, Controlling Officer. At this stage, allow me to give you space to make the closing remarks. Over to you, Controlling Officer.
Thank you very much, Chair and the honorable members. Once again, I would like to thank you for giving us this opportunity where we have explained ourselves. I would just like to reiterate, and this is a statement that I had made in my presentation. This statement is that whether the Bureau contemplates any further investigative steps, the Bureau can confirm that in view of the new information that we did not have as of 18th December, the Bureau will reopen the investigation into the whole matter, and that the matter will be investigated without fear, favor, or ill will. Other than that, those are my closing remarks. Thanks so much again to you, Chair, and the whole honorable members for the questions you were asking. Tough questions, not easy to respond. But thank you very much for you being eager to ensure that there is proper accountability in the work that we do. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Controlling Officer. I would like to appreciate you coming. The idea was just to get more information from that perspective and from your office and the institution. We've managed to get what we're supposed to get, but I would like to put it on record that we have so many avenues where we're getting information, because Malawians out there, they want serious undertakings and to shape a better future for all of us, your children, my children, and their children, and their children's children, so that Malawi can be a better nation. As you go, yesterday during the discussion, it came out clear that your predecessors attempted to have whistleblower protection law. Would like to ask you to seriously consider that you engage Malawi Law Society, the Attorney General, as well as the Minister of Justice, because all these are members of Malawi Law Society. We need a proper law in terms of protecting those who are whistleblowers, because continued wait shall make this great nation lose its resources. We need those whistleblowers to be protected. If we can't do it, please, and if you cannot attempt that one, we'd like to ask you to inform Parliament, so that maybe Parliament can push. Even here at Parliament, we have a legal committee, and the chairperson is a lawyer. Please engage all these and make sure that we push for this law, because it appears that the whistleblower, to a certain extent, feels is not safe. To that effect, they haven't provided even relevant information direct to your office, because they felt that they are not protected under the law. So can we make efforts, serious efforts, to make sure that we have that law? With these remarks, I wish you all the best as you get back to your offices. Give us clear timelines so that as Malawians, we can know that Acb is now up and running and is set to protecting the integrity of the institution and to protect the integrity of innocent citizens of this nation. With these remarks, I would like to wish you well. You may take leave at your pleasure. Thank you so much, Controlling Officer.
Thank you very much, Chair. We have taken concern and we have taken note of the whistleblower law, very important. It's in the process of being done by the Law Commission. We engage Law Commission so that we should fast track the process. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. You may take leave. Having spent a lot of time, I would like to invite you for tea outside so that you can replenish, you can attend to your energy levels. Thank you so much, Controlling Officer.
Thank you.
Osaiwala kupanga subscribe ku channel ya AMTV Malawi.